Hey guys, Brian here. Welcome back to the shop. Before I get started back working on the pan on the lathe, one of the tools I had to have to keep on that job was a grinder. As you recall, my Porter cable grinder bit the dust. I can't complain a lot about this grinder. You can buy them for like $35 at the local home improvement stores, and Rural King, they all carry this grinder. But a lot of people recommended this grinder, the Makita 9005B. It's pretty similar size-wise. The gear head actually is a little bigger on this Porter cable. This is a 7 amp, this is a 9 amp, I think. 10 amp. It's 12,000 RPM, this one says it's 10, for whatever that's worth. Ergonomically, this Porter cable is pretty nice actually. It's got a nice clean switch, got a grippy pads on the sides. I hold my grinders like this a lot when I use them because I don't use the side handles, because a lot of times they run into whatever I'm trying to grind, because they're usually trying to work in some impossible to get to hole location, rather than, you know, doing fabrication work that can be done out in the open. Usually my stuff's more repair work, and it's usually confined space. So a lot of times I don't use this handle at all. It could be that not having the guard on here is throwing a bunch more trash up into the motor and helped contribute to its early demise. So I'll leave this on here for a day or two until I no doubt get fed up with it and take it off, but leave it on there for now if I can get by with it. But otherwise, they're pretty similar weight-wise. This one's a little heavier. Same deal, I wanted a rat tail type grinder because I do run it without the handle quite often, and paddle type grinders are not conducive to operating without the handle on them. So that's what I bought. It says assembled in USA, from no idea where the components come from, but I guess that's a plus. But let's see, I paid $119 for this grinder. And this one's like $35, so I got about 3 years out of this one. So that means this one ought to get me at least 12 to be equivalent value. We'll find out, I guess, in the long run. So for now, it's time to get back to work on this pan. Alright, the handles are gonna come off. Might as well go ahead and throw that thing away. Now you go see if I can't straighten this out to lay it in there like it's supposed to be, and have something to go by where the screws are. Well, there it is with all the panels back in. Surprisingly enough, I was able to get all the screws back in the braces after I got it all in there. And this is pretty heavy stuff. I can stand on it. No worries. But it's not real bad. Looking down through there. For sure way better than where it started. You can actually see gap under the lathe. Next up, I gotta take this cover off. This is the coolant trough. And I got a coolant pump over here that pumps water up into this trough. And then there's another pump there on the carriage that goes over and draws water out of the trough. That's how they let it get this long traverse without a big hose dragging back and forth, like these DRO cables. That's how they got them set up. I would probably like to have one of those tracks like what's on the G&L, that black thing. It's over there. It's what holds the cables on it going up to the DRO. So it goes in and out. They're not all laying around dragging. It's a nice way to do it in those cable ways. Same kind of deal on top of the Cincinnati. But they would not be very easy to do on here without making a whole separate bracket back here, because all this stuff on the back of the saddle, there's not a good place to pass through, or like I said, to really mount that stuff that would be up close, because you might be able to see it up in there, and that's too dark. But there's the readout scale, and there's just barely a little hole it can get through. On the other side there, where the rapid traverse goes up and engages this rack that is on the back of the machine. Sorry, hopefully not making you sick, but you can see that rack there. That's for the rapid traverse to move back and forth. So this machine actually has racks on both sides. Doesn't appear to have been painted on the lathe base. The ways have not ever had paint on this machine, interestingly enough. Kind of like where that beautiful sprocket is. You may notice that the area underneath in the back there, that is also bare metal. So that was never painted either. So I guess they just went with the pretty parts and painted them. But the ways are certainly looking a lot better than they were. Got this cleaned up about the first 10 feet or so. Then I was able to get the clutch rod in here without having to move the lathe. I had to take these supports here, slide, and they lock and unlock. And a track on the side of the lathe here. There's a pin. There's the pin. Pin trips it to unlatch. So the carrier normally stays right there where that little groove's worn on the shaft where it's been running forever. But there's two of these, one on each side of this machine. And they say lock and unlock as they traverse. And that's what holds the lead screw and feed screw up, because they're so long that they'll bow. Just like you can see the clutch shaft there. Has a little bit of bow in it right now because this carrier is not where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be over there. But I had to slide it down here in order to get enough room to be able to get the clutch shaft fed through here. And I got a screw in there where you can adjust the clutch for where it sits. So that's the clutch. You got that working. The next thing I do is take this carriage apart and see if I can get the shaft freed up for the forwards and reverse for the feed controls. For whatever reason it's froze up, so I'll probably have to drain the oil out of it to do that. Let's just run it some more, happens to get it loose. And I got that cleaned up a while back. The oil coming out of this thing's still dirty. I'm hoping it'll clean up after it runs for a bit. So the waves look better without the rust on them for sure. Some of that staining and pitting will never come out of them, but that's just as good as it gets. If I showed, this tailstock has a built-in live center of massive proportions to allow for how much weight this thing will hold. So, nice big, I think it's an 8-inch quill. Has its own built-in lube for it. You just pull this every 4 hours, it says, and it lubes everything up there. So, lots more cleaning to do here. This whole end down here needs cleaned up and oiled up, keep it from rusting up. I've got that rock wool bag over there because the roof seals 2 holes up there, drips right there. So I gotta patch that, but it's gotta quit raining first or snowing, and not good weather for getting on roofs, especially metal ones that are 10-12 pitch. Not pleasant. But if anybody's real handy with sheet metal and would like to help me to fabricate covers to go back on here, the way cover and the cover that goes on there, I would be interested in contracting some business to somebody that would bend that stuff up and recreate it. I've got the ones for my existing Monarch that no doubt are virtually the same thing. These are just scaled up, so I could go buy those and just make them bigger to match these and get all that covered back up and looking pretty again. It would be nice. The chuck on there looks pretty though. Now I've got the clutches on there. I was able to find some lenses. That's the one there, and they were supposed to send 2, but there was only 1, so I contacted the person and they said, oh, there was their mistake, and they would send the other one, so maybe this week the other one will show up and I can get that prettied back up. Next thing will be to tackle those controls. And also, if anybody, these pins and this newel connector, you got these little electrical connector pins there that the wires are broke off in and they're crimped. So repairing this connector is going to be a problem without new pins to put in it. But that's all I think it needs to get it working. The other one does work. So it reads out okay, the long scale on the back. This is the cross scale. So let's fire this thing off and we'll see how the light works and check out the new clutch linkage. As well as there's the chip pan on this side. After doing all my work to it. Still got a little bow in here. I didn't fix that part because the saddle was over top of it. So as soon as I get some torch gasket in, because I'm out of that, I'll come back and work that section over. Try and get it bent down and out of the way. Otherwise, it's not looking too bad. Alright, it's another cold start. Let's go. complete. Lathe is on 425 RPM. Here we go. From the lathe controller. You can slowly advance your workpiece if you need to just jog it. Or you can let it rip. Starting forwards. Engage. Well, it gets a little closer all the time. I guess next up will be more cleaning and getting this thing set down on the floor on some pads. I got to saw up and cut some more discs for this machine to sit on the floor. And once I get that done, it'll be time to start leveling, which will be a pretty big job, I'm sure, on a large machine like this. 30 feet, it's got a whole lot to twist and a whole lot to flex, so should be a good little challenge. Plus, you don't know how accurate the ways are to go off of them to level it with anyway. I'll probably try and do it off the carriage as best I can and go by that. Whether it's earth level is not extremely important, although if it is, it does help some with doing setups later on. More so on the boring mill probably in this lathe, but it still could be useful to have it actually level with the world. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, I'll catch y'all later.